Next up is a set of effects we'll call distortion. The principle of distortion is basically that you can tweak and adjust the shape of an audio waveform according to whatever rules or algorithms you like to produce a related but changed result, a distorted result. We generally hear that in a sound as dirt or crunch or crackle or drive or fuzz. Lots of different words can casually describe the result. But very subtle distortion can simply warm or fatten a sound, or round off rough edges, making it smoother or creamier. The key factor is that you're changing the shape of the waveform down to the single sample level and producing a differently shaped result to affect the resulting sound in a desirable way. The distortion module itself is the fundamental version of this. It reshapes the waveform, most often resulting in additional high harmonics and a richer, harsher sound. We can see if we dip back into the generator section for a second with this effect, how it saturates a sine wave, pushing more and more of the wave cycle towards the minimum and maximum of amplitude, creating a result that's much more like a square wave with all its higher frequency information in those sharper rises and falls. Different shaping profiles, of course, have different effects, and the resulting sound will be different. In addition to the amount of drive, we can adjust dynamics response. Fully to the left, the distortion is dynamics dependent, meaning that the amplitude of the input signal at any given moment directly affects the amount of distortion. Peaks get distorted more, leading to a reduction of dynamic range. To the right, this knob allows a more even response to the input signal and reapplies the envelope shape of the input signal on output for a more dynamic result. Bias makes for a more interesting sound by pushing the amplitude of the input signal off-center with a DC offset. Spread biases the left and right channels differently, so there's a stereo widening effect. And DC filter recenters the amplitude of the output signal if the result of the distortion is lopsided. This can be key for loudness maximization later in the signal chain. There's also a mix control. Shaper is a more sophisticated wave shaping distortion tool. You're not limited to just a few pre-made shaping curves, but can create and edit your own for more extreme results. There's another video on this channel going into more detail on Shaper and its even more multi-dimensional sibling Shaper table. But the gist is wild and crazy double destructive distortion. Then you've got digital distortion with bit crush, which reduces the sample rate or the bit rate, or both, for chippy retro sounds. And phase distortion, which produces a kind of FM feedback distortion sound by having the input sound, or another sound on the sidechain, drive an offset in the phase of individual harmonics in the output sound. The result can be intense and quite out there. I'm not going to explain every knob on every effect, by the way, but do remember that if you hover over a control, you get a little text explanation in the bottom left of Phase Plant. Finally, under distortion, I've included ring mod, which distorts the shape of the waveform by multiplying it sample by sample with something else, by default a sine wave. There's also noise options and self or sideband options. The ringing effects it can produce give it its name, but it can give a wide range of creative distortion results depending on the input and the modulator. So that's distortion, and now it's time to talk about time effects.